Hi, welcome to Aussie Liberty. Today I want to talk about what I call the socialist death spiral. That is the sort of social phenomenon where bad policies interact with coercion to produce a really terrible ongoing human disaster. So there's two aspects to it. First aspect, central planning doesn't work. If you try to control people's lives with government, not only do you make them really upset and make them really mad, it also doesn't work. It's actually impossible to control other people's lives because you have no idea what they want. There's just an information problem, which is Ludwig von Mises and F.A. Hayek, who are two economists from last century, talked about this extensively in their work in the 20s and 30s and 40s. So check them out. Essentially, no one can know everything. If you can't know everything, you can't make the best possible decisions. And if you make substandard decisions, you essentially get a low, increasingly sort of hampering growth and the betterment of people's lives. People's lives don't get better as quickly, or when you really try to control things, you make people's lives worse and you make them poorer. So that's one aspect. Central planning doesn't work. Second aspect, people get pissed off when you try to stop them from living their lives. So if you try to control their lives, they don't like it. I was listening to a podcast just this week talking about slavery and the cost of slavery, and one of the costs for slave owners was they have to watch their slaves because, unsurprisingly, if you steal somebody from another continent and force them to work in your cotton plantation, they're not going to do much unless you actually stand there and watch them do it and beat them if they don't do it. So in any form of coercion, the only way to continually make people do stuff they don't want is to continually coerce them, to force them, investigate them, send in cops, send them to prison, beat them, all this kind of stuff. You get this sort of ongoing systemic violence towards people. So two aspects. Central planning doesn't work, and it makes people poorer, and it makes people mad. Coercion doesn't work, and it's bad, and it makes people upset, and you have to continually add more force. So the way this kind of comes together in this socialist death spiral is best seen in Venezuela right now. So under Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro, we've had this socialist government. Venezuela 40 years ago or whatever was like one of the most prosperous countries in South America. It's now one of the least prosperous, and it's in a current grip of violence and complete societal breakdown because essentially they keep trying to centrally plan the economy, and it really doesn't work, and they're running out of money, they're running out of food, they're going to toilet paper. They've essentially, the government has killed every form of private initiative and drive and desire to provide goods, and so unsurprisingly nobody provides any goods. And so then people get mad, and what do people do when they get mad? They protest, they get upset. They try to communicate their displeasure through the newspapers, through the media. Well, the government shuts that down. Okay, well, you shut it down through the media, so they take it to the streets. Well, they take it to the streets, and so either you accede to their demands or you send in the troops. And in Venezuela, they send in the troops. There was a thing just this week talking about fining businesses for having long lines. Well, it's a perfect example because you've essentially, bread lines. You've got these bread lines. I think they're literally bread lines, like bakeries and stuff. You've got these long lines because you've killed all the incentives to make lots of bread through a variety of reasons. Money, the inflation of money, through restrictions on trading, through regulation, through government control. There's very little bread. Even though, they grow like they used to grow tons of food. So there's hardly any bread. So people, the only way to ration out bread in a world where there's, prices are suppressed is to wait in a line. Well, then they're going to fine them for waiting. Okay, then you're making people more upset. And the reason they're doing it is to stop people from seeing the lines. It doesn't change. It's not so they make more bread. It's so they don't have long lines and people don't see that and report on it. Well, what do you think those people are going to go home and just sit on their hands and just not think about it? Like they're going to forget the fact that they've got empty stomachs and that there's no toilet paper, there's no medicine, people are dying, there's no work. So you sort of get this system of suppression, like bad policies leading to bad outcomes, then having to suppress the resentment and the distrust and the discontent. And so you just end up with this massive cycle of just violence and misery. And this is true of every single system that operates with this coercion and this suppression. Drug prohibition, all of them, they all work like that. Because the only way you can continue bad policies, like people who have these, like Nicolas Maduro, I actually think he genuinely believes what he's talking about. Like Hugo Chavez, these guys are true believers. I mean, obviously they steal a lot of money as well, but if you go back to like Mao Zedong and Stalin and Lenin and Hitler, these guys were true believers. They truly believed in their cause. And so when they come across evidence that says they're wrong, they're not going to just go, well, I guess I'm wrong. This thing I've spent my whole life building up, got it wrong. Sorry, guys, let's start again. The only way they're going to do it is doubling down. Government bureaucrats in Australia, they're going to come up with all sorts of plans and dreams for people. They're going to get it wrong. And what are they going to do? They're not going to say, well, hey, guys, I got it wrong. They're going to double down. They're going to step up. And the only way you can step it up, the only way you can take it to the next level is to increase the coercion and then double down on the violence and double down on the enforcement and double down. It's just how the world works. So if you are of the mindset that the way we can fix the world is by controlling it through some sort of central planning, technocrats, bureaucrats, politicians, those guys need to control. Well, you're going to face the inevitable problem of violence and coercion and this spiral where the only way to keep going is to double down and to continue to ruin people's lives and make them more miserable. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below, either on YouTube or on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter at Aussie Liberty. So thanks for joining me, and I'll hopefully have more videos up pretty soon.